I think one of the hardest, aspects of any business, any startup, any business in general, is the people part. It's going to be the key. Your key determining factor in failure or success most of the time is going to be the people.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Leads to Growth. My name's Chris McCoy and I'm your host today, reaching out for you from the National Association of Sales Professionals. And as y'all can see, I wore a collar today. I figured I had this guy might be a little loose today. I was like, I'll even it up with a little collar. How you doing, Dale?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you? I'm rocking the hoodie today. So,
I saw that, man. Hey, I had to deal your style, man. So I figured, entrepreneurs are gonna roll how they roll. I'm gonna even this out a little bit.
That's right. A collar is fancy for me, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, I've got a couple of them. They only come out for special occasions, so you're one of them. So listen, y'all, we've got Dale Backus with us today, and I was really excited to bring on Dale. And Dale's like, man, I don't know. Does your audience even really want to hear what I'm talking about or what I'm doing? I'm like, man, almost everybody I know has a story, maybe starts similar to yours. Maybe not a lot of people didn't finish it. And so Dale is a product creator, y'all. This guy's a special breed of people, and he's brought a few products to market already. But he's also had some that failed. Oh, go figure. That happens. We didn't know that, Dale. We didn't know you. I thought everyone was a success.
No, more failures than successes, probably. If you count it all up, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but we're just getting started too. So Dale's going to share a little story with us from an entrepreneur's perspective, right? We're going to talk about Dale's going to tell us how he got to where he is today. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about that. Oh, snap. I'm sure we're going to cover that, Dale. But yeah, Dale was introduced to me from a friend who we just had on the show, John Andrews, and told me a little bit about his story and how he came up and what he's doing right now. And I just thought this had a lot of similarities and a lot of resonance for our audience. Y'all, we're all salespeople out there. And how many of us have had a great idea to sell something, a product, a service, a business, or whatever it is, and maybe didn't have the courage or weren't able to sell ourselves to bring that thing forward, or to take the courage to launch it, or put ourselves out there, and then to do it again, and then to do it again, and to do it again. And so I wanted Dale to share his story with us here, y'all. And Dale, tell us a little bit about OHSnap first before you get rolling. What's your current project right now? I also saw your wallet too, so I'm sure you got a couple of things rolling.
Yeah. I'm always, I have a list of product or business ideas, man, and it's endless, and it's just so, OHSnap is specifically out to sort of change and sort of lead the world into this era of what I call smartphone accessories. I think for the past initial 10 years of smartphones, when smartphones were one or two dimensional, sort of dumb accessories were adequate, where a phone was a phone for the most part. But then as the years have progressed, they've gotten big, they've gotten expensive, and they've gotten so multifaceted that sort of adapting them to your particular lifestyle or set of needs has become sort of a challenge. And so if you go on Amazon and you if you're a gamer or a biker or a car guy or a content creator, there's a whole segment of accessories for you. But if you have two of those things, they're rarely meshed well together. And so I just think, the world needs a more universally adaptable set of solutions that can kind of, adapt your phone to your specific lifestyle needs. And so that's what OHSnap's all about, and there's a whole long story that goes along with us arriving even to that vision. It's mostly laced with failure, but I'm pretty clear on where we need to go.
I love it. And listen, we love to redefine the word failure. Failure is such a bad condensation definition around it. Failure is learning, right? Failure is information and knowledge and a tool to get you forward. So Dale, tell us how you got into launching products. Have you always been a product creator or?
Yeah, I've always had a penchant for it, even as a kid. I was, and I just, when I was in elementary school, I told people I wanted to be an inventor. I wanted to invent things and have a store where I sold my inventions. That's what I would tell people. I invented a bunch of crazy stuff when I was a kid. Like I invented this thing one time. It was essentially a folded piece of cardboard with aluminum foil on either side. And, it would close the contact and then spin a fan on top of the mailbox. So you would know when you got mail by looking out your window and seeing if the fan was spinning, and just stupid stuff like that. And I was trying to design like a prank device that had would launch an egg at you when you open your mailbox. You put it in a friend's mailbox. I never actually built that. But anyway, I just always have loved doing it. And and then out of high school, I had also had a, interest in content creation, which is what wasn't called that back then, but we call it filmmaking or like, whatever. And so I can go into that story if you want, but yeah, I started a little production company with a friend, and then realized that that model wasn't for me. The whole like sales service model, like, this, this may or may not resonate with your audience, but, I am a sales guy because I have to be, but I the whole more sort of direct meaning of that, of going out and finding clients over and over and over again, getting a steady stream of work. When you're a product production agency, it's a service model, and so you're having to go and find the next job, the next job, and the next job. And I like the idea more of selling a product, a physical thing, where people are coming to you to look for that solution rather than the other way around. You know what I mean?
And Dale, and this is beautiful too, because you're resonating with all of us salespeople as well, because that every goal of every salesperson is to be as valuable of a resource that you are the one people are coming to, right? That is the goal, and it doesn't just come with being that way. You've got to be out there. You got to put out content. You've got to be an expert in your field, and you got to be solving problems. Tell me how solving problems led you to maybe one of your first opportunities in product creation.
I mean, solving problems led me to all my opportunities. I mean, that's essentially what I do. And, I live my life, and I think it's worked to my advantage because I'm a kind of guy who gets sucked into hobbies and really easily. And then I get bored of them really fast and I find another one. So I've like had my hand in so many different areas of interest. And a lot of insights come from saying, oh, I've done this over here, but I'm also now doing this. And oh, that from over here I used to would be useful over here. And then that's where most things come from, is this like cross-pollination of experience, different segments or different industries. Some automotive company invented this adhesive for the door panels, but I'm trying to build this golf product that we're struggling to solve this problem. And hey, I used to work in this automotive industry, that this would work well over here. That happens all the time. But for me in particular, my first real company after the production agency I started with a buddy was a company called Small HD, which still operates and is a thing today, and it's a really well-known brand in this sort of cinema production space. So they make high definition.
Saw one this morning in my yoga studio. Someone was doing a little film production. I was like, oh, there it is. I got to interview with my brand today.
Yep. So that's become a pretty well-known brand. I mean, it's probably the most well-known brand, among a couple like Sony and a couple other large brands in that space, especially at the higher end. And and that was the whole thing, was around solving a need that I had. We had this production company. It was right at the time when film was starting to kind of get edged out by digital. It was very early days in kind of 2005, 2006. The red camera first came out in 2006 to sort of change the whole vector of the industry. And so we had a little JVC 720 HD camera, and we were filming stuff for clients and things. And I was like, man, we need an HD display to monitor HD footage appropriately so we can get focus right and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, nothing really existed. And so, being kind of an inventor guy, I was like, I could build one. There's netbooks at the time. There's a pre-tablet, pre-HD laptop, really. Back then, there's little 720p netbooks, that you could buy. They're like the worst things ever. And so I was like, the screens exist, the drivers exist. It's just put it all in a box and you have a monitor. And so I did that. And then we ended up saying, you know what, this is pretty useful. Let's put them on eBay and let's see if anyone else wants them. They actually sold like hotcakes at a really high price. You're like, man, there's a need here. And then I was like, all right, let's do this for real. And then we actually designed a better version of it. And there's like some crazy stories, man. Like I could write a book on the ways not to build a business as a result of that 10-year experience I had with that company, because I knew nothing going into it. And we failed so much more than we succeeded. But when we did succeed, because of the failures and learning as much as we learned, the successes were pretty large. And so yeah, that's kind of where it is. And OHSnap was the same thing. I just said, after I sold Small HD, I was kind of looking for the next challenge. And I said, man, I just see, I want a grip. I got a pop socket for the first time, like a long time ago. And I was like, this seems cool, but I hate it at the same time. It's so big. It gets stuck on my pockets. There's got to be a better way, and started figuring out a better way to do it. So yeah.
Oh man, I love it. And look, we talk about sales all the time, but sales doesn't just live in the sales world. You said you wanted to be a salesperson. You still have to sell your product. You still have to sell your employees. You got to sell the team. You got to sell the designers, and then you got to create a marketing campaign to sell the people. So you just wanted to do it on your terms, I believe, is probably more suitable.
Yeah, and I think for me, and sort of the sales perspective of all this is, I think, there's a big difference between being a product guy and an entrepreneur, and I'm constantly trying to bridge those two things. And for me, I've had to learn over the past couple of years in particular how to sell the vision of what we're trying to do, which is deadly important when you're an entrepreneur anyway, because if you don't know what your vision is well enough to articulate it to somebody that who you're trying to convince of your vision for whatever reason, then you probably don't know what your vision is well enough. You know what I mean? So it's really required me to think on a more macro level, industry trends and where things are going, and trying to skate to where the puck is going rather than where it is, because that's what people buy. If I was just trying to create another freaking accessory, a little plastic widget or whatever, that's one in a million other ones, it wouldn't be very compelling. So, as part of crafting that story, it's fed right back into the product roadmap and the stuff I do every day, which is what I really like to do.
Absolutely. And because you're solving a problem that you already know exists. And then like you did with the small HD, you tested the market. All right, does this really solve the problem? Am I aligned with what the problem is? There's a great story we tell sometimes where the salesperson calls this person every day. He's like, I got a leaky roof. Perfect. I got the perfect answer for you. No, he's like, I just get wet every time I sit on my porch and it rains. The guy's like, oh, don't worry. I got you. We end up bringing him an umbrella. The guy's like, no, I have a leaky roof. I know I can put that giant umbrella. But the idea is that, there's a problem exists, it exists. Now, does this solve the problem? Yes, it does. You test it. And now that's why people come to you, because you already have built the story within the product. You didn't build a product and say, oh, how can I sell it to somebody?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that inception of the product is very important.
Absolutely.
I love that. And I also love how you said you're looking to go where the puck is. Nice hockey turn there. I'm from Detroit, so I got you. But you're looking to go where the puck is, and sometimes that can be a lonely place and a little bit of a risky place to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why the vision becomes so much more important for you to rally the team. Now, tell me, how have you been able to especially being that you're creating the product and the baby, this is your baby. How have you been able to delegate these responsibilities out? Has that been a challenge for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the hardest, aspects of any business, any startup, any business in general, is the people part. And it's going to be the key, your key determining factor in failure or success most of the time is going to be the people. I've learned, I tend to be an introverted person by nature, and I've had to force myself, to learn how to communicate, to learn that there's tremendous value in people and in bringing good people into the boat. And just because that's where the magic happens. You know what I mean? Like that's when 2 + 2 becomes 10, is when you can have the vision, yes, clarify the vision, yes, but to be able to articulate it, to get people excited about it, to want to join you, usually at great risk to themselves, to do that. And so, yeah, man, like, the delegation of things isn't really to me anymore as much about, oh, you do this, you do that. It's like, let's just bring awesome people in and let them do their thing. I mean, that's essentially what it's all about. Like I am not a micromanager to a fault, and it's forced me as a result of many, many failures of bringing in the wrong people, to bring in the right people that hate being delegated or hate being micromanaged, and that's where the magic happens. That's where the multiplication effect is.
So you're empowering people as opposed to delegating.
Yeah. Like the bait is the vision. The bait is the vision. The bait is the dream that is believable first, right? And you have to show you have a level of intelligence and executional ability to where they're not thinking you're an idiot, right? But if you can bring great people alongside of you, they don't need to be told what to do, right? They're gonna because that's the thing, is most entrepreneurs fall into this trap. I've seen it so many times where they're like, well, I'm the leader and I have to put people behind me and I have to drag them forward in this uncharted path that all startups are trying to forge. Is like, I'm the only one that can see down that path on all the various sort of parallel sort of lanes of of sales and marketing and product and whatever. And I just got exhausted doing that, and the real scalable success model is bringing people in who are charting their own paths in each of these sort of lanes of responsibility. And you're just you're shepherding it in a way, but really you're just letting them do their thing, right? I don't want to be constantly having to think about, oh, because creativity is the magical lever that makes all this stuff really work, right? And I don't have the creative energy or capacity to think, what's the most creative way to apply our marketing dollars? What's the most creative way to develop the product? What's the most creative way to approach supply chain? And so you have to bring in creative, driven people who can apply their formula, to those pathways. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Dale, I love it, man. It's exactly the perspective I would be teaching most sales leaders out there. Most sales leaders are out there going, man, I don't have time to do any of the strategy, any of the things that I need to do, because I'm constantly over the shoulder of the people I'm working with.
Exactly.
And a lot of that comes with the hiring process, and bringing in the right people. And then also, like you said, empowering them, getting the right people in, bringing them on, and delivering the vision, really relaying the vision in a powerful way where they can then relay the vision. This is everything with sales. Every new salesperson comes in, they've got to understand the differentiators. They got to understand the vision. They've got to understand these pieces to relay them to each potential client in the future.
Yep, exactly.
Very relative.
And I can imagine, I've never built a sales team, like a traditional sales team myself, but I recently, and this is how John and I met up, I'm realizing about myself that, I want to, again, this is what people don't understand. I think there's two types of people. There's a type of person that is a path forger, and then there's other types of people that are path followers, and that's totally fine, right? Not everyone can be, we need those two types of people, right? But what you need to do is, in each key pillar of your business, you need a path forger in that business, and then you need path followers, that breaks down, right? There's path forgers on a macro level and a micro level and all that kind of stuff. But like, I feel like, what I was looking for is someone who can forge the path on the business side of the business. And so I went out there and I said, I need to go hire a CEO. I want to forge the path on the product stuff and the vision stuff and the kind of the who our business is. But I need someone who can forge a path on the business side, managing the finances and finding money and, and hiring people and building culture and all that kind of stuff that needs to happen. And not just like as a box to check, but like in a creative, innovative way. And I just don't have the capacity to do both things well. And so I went out there looking for a CEO, and then John came to me, and sort of what I use is sort of the filter process in terms of what kind of person would be right for this role. Cause I got like 200 responses for this thing. It was insane. And I went out there and I just wrote this post on LinkedIn, and I was like, listen, I'm looking for someone that can do these things. Don't send me your resume. I'm not going to read it. Just hit me up and let's have a conversation and that kind of thing. And people found that really refreshing. And I think it's probably why I got so many responses.
John definitely referenced your authenticity as a big flag of reaching out to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then once a bunch of people came into me, I didn't respond immediately because I wanted to see who had the tenacity and the follow-up to kind of like to bug me. And so as an initial filter, right? So who tried to touch me more than once, because I think that's the kind of person I'm looking for, a sort of a connector, networky, business development kind of angled guy, someone who is just high energy and just wants to just do stuff, And so again, if I'm building it back to where I started, if I wanted to build a sales team, I'm trying to hire people, right? I would look for those things. Like I would say, hey, who's hyper, who's trying to like, really, really get in here and is asking me all these questions and is really highly engaging me, versus someone who's like, hey, I'm interested, and then just waits for a response and and that's all they do. You know what I mean? Like that's not the kind of person I'm looking for. And that filtered out like 80% of the people right away. Someone who just shoots a resume over, right, and that's it, and they're done. Like that's not the sort of tenacity I'm looking for. And John would just like you just like and so that's worked out really well so far. And so I think this really applies directly to sales and building a sales team. Is I can only imagine in sales, that's the kind of person you want,
Absolutely. You want that tenacity. And look, we do sales training for college students all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is the biggest sales job you ever have, is your first, especially kids who are going to school and getting a degree,
Mm-hmm.
accounting or business management or something like that, going into a career profession right out of school. Their first job that they take directly impacts the amount of money they'll make for the rest of their life.
Yep.
The stats are there. They don't lie. And
Mm-hmm.
so you got to be able to sell yourself. And so to know what you need to do is a huge, powerful opportunity there. And I love how you had a process that would weed out the people that you didn't want to deal with.
Yes.
And that probably made your hiring process, your interviewing process, a lot more fun too, because you had people that you were more intrigued with talking to.
Yep. Yeah. And I just think success in general, I don't have data on this, but I imagine if there was a way to get it, like success over, like, I think there are different types of people in the industry, in the segment, and the job matters and context matters here. But in general, the more tenacious, gritty people tend to win in the long term. And that's kind of, yeah. And I was designing that into the process intentionally, because that's who I'm looking for, is, a guy who wants to sit in front of his computer on spreadsheets all day. I don't think is what this company needs right now. And again, those people are needed and are important people for this specific role and this specific time and phase of this journey. I'm looking for an outward bound kind of, highly networked person who can get out there. And yeah, man, I think as an executive, and having been one for a long time, you can imagine I get 1 million inbound cold emails a day, like a billion. I mean, it's nonstop. I don't know how my email's out there so much. But I'm on a bunch of lists or something. I don't know. But, I would just say is this feedback, what works for me is, and this is, I think, common with marketing in general. Like, I don't respond to 99% of these emails I get, right? Because they're unsolicited, just kind of like, and they're usually all selling the same thing: IT, software development, marketing, right? Those are kind of the general things. And so what I tend to look for is sort of a unique approach. And then I tend to look for sort of who's really, using most of the stuff is scripted. You can tell it's scripted. And I'm saying, like, okay, if it's scripted, I automatically am just like, nah. If I can usually just skim it, right? I don't have time to read. If they're sending me a 5-paragraph email, I am not going to read that email, man. I get hundreds of emails a day. I click it, I scan it. So something pops out to me in terms of, oh, this is, this is a creative person. This is a person who's being unconventional, who's being or to the point, who's clearly articulating the value they can add, who has some proof to that. Those are the ones I tend to respond to. And then after that, I usually don't respond to it immediately. But then if they keep hitting me up with like creative, funny or creative approaches kind of things, but they're like lighthearted about it, those are the things that tend to work for me. I can only imagine that.
100%. Y'all hear that? I just want to make sure everybody heard that out there. Stop using your stupid templates.
Yeah.
Stop using long form paragraphs.
Yep.
Pay attention.
No one's reading it.
Yeah, nobody's reading this.
I don't have the time.
It's bananas. I mean, I work with some great guys at Lavender, a great group, and they do an AI email writing assistant. Mm-hmm. And what they found is the data, because they have all the people sending their emails to them, and they get the reports on the open and everything. And what they found is 2-word subject lines had the best opportunity to open.
Yep. Oh yeah, dude. Even the subject line, more than 3, 4, 5 words. I'm looking for a couple keywords.
Dale wants to read it like a text. That's how most owners and founders and people that you want to buy from you do. And I think that's a huge piece. I love that. All right. So Dale, tell me now, what was it like bringing your first product out there? I mean, the taking a product to market, putting yourself out there, hearing your first failures. Tell us about your first failure and how you were able to rebound from that first failure.
Well, there's too many to count, but I'll use an OHSnap example. So I think OHSnap, the very first product I designed, to sort of enter into this space was took me 3 years. And I wasn't working on it full time, right? It was kind of like I was using a supplier relationship I already had, and I went over there a couple of times, and I was just trying to figure out this. It was a pretty complicated thing, so that grip, though, we ended up kickstarting for the first time, kind of in this space in the fall of 2019. So like the pandemic was looming and all that kind of stuff. We didn't know it at the time, obviously, but and we shipped that product, or we kickstarted it. I think it was October or September or something, 2019. Raised almost $500,000 on Kickstarter, but then all said and done about $700,000 once you factor in a couple other things, Indiegogo and post sales and stuff like that, which is a pretty big success on Kickstarter. Yeah. Went to CES, sort of like, okay, we have this kind of seed money now. Let's start the company in earnest. Let's ship the product. Let's get a little office and start kind of pushing forward on building the site out and the sales. And so we're kind of doing all that. Went to CES in January 2020, kind of launched the company, get the press, talk to people, find reviewers, and kind of start seeding it that way as it be coming out. And then in February, realized that this product, of which we had shipped out tens of thousands of units, was failing at a really high rate, really early in the product life cycle. We spent, you know, the whole month of February trying to figure out why and where the root cause was and how we could, you know, essentially fix it, and realize ultimately that we couldn't. There was no telltale sign of early failure or some alterations we make to the process. And sitting there going, like, this thing is going to kill us. We had, I think at that point already, between the time we shipped stuff out in December to February, it already shipped out like 10,000 replacement units on our dime, you know, as part of the warranty replacement. And that was, you know, sort of a kneecapping moment. And we were just like, this company's going to die if we don't adjust, pivot, and do something about it. And so, you know, that's when I said, you know what, I think, you know, I can take the learnings of what I have here, not just about how the product failed, but sort of where we saw the industry going, and sort of the whole puck thing, right? Like, we were like, wireless charging is going to become a really important part of this equation. We need to come out with a product that sort of better adapts to the wireless charging thing that's sort of starting to really get popular now. So the month of March, you know, right as the pandemic was revving up, you know, I sat in my house with a 3D printer behind me, and I just designed a new product in 30 days. I gave myself 30 days to design a new product that we could launch. And we kickstarted that product in May of 2020. So in a 4-month span, went from realizing, oh shit, we're screwed, to kickstarting a brand new product and raised $1.2 million on that on Kickstarter, 1.7 all said and done on this new product that we had designed in a span of 2-3 months. And so that, you know, yes, it was a massive failure and almost killed us. But on the flip side, you know, we took what we could learn from it, and we reacted as quickly as we possibly could to the problem. You know, and it really helps when you can sell and market something, right? Like making a good video and really telling the story and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that was a massive failure. And ultimately, though, it put us in a much better space. We're in a much more scalable, you know, situation right now than we ever were. And so, I mean, that's just one of them, but I could go on forever about that.
I love that too, because I think what you said there is really, really important. It's the awareness, right? It's not a failure. It's a lesson. It's learned. It's value. It's information. There's something to build off of there, right? So you choosing to see it that way was really important, because I imagine your first reaction was not that.
Oh yeah.
yeah, right. We going down, like, but then you got to say, oh wait, no, that's not. Results give us information. It's not win-win.
Yeah,
right? It's not win-lose. It's not win-lose. It's win-win always. Because whatever information you get, as long as your story that you tell yourself doesn't end there, that information is what brings you forward. And then you did the other important thing, Dale, that I think is super important that people maybe forget, is you took action immediately. And and I think you got yourself into the right frame of mind, and then you took action, because it's very easy to get yourself out of that frame, get in the right frame of mind, and then wonder what I should do next, and get stuck in that place, right?
Yeah. And I think it wouldn't avoid. I think the key thing here, which not everyone can do, obviously, in my specific context, you know, a physical product company, the type of product we make and all that, like, I am, you know, me and Dave are the only 2 engineers at this company. And I'm sort of like the initial sort of design, sort of industrial design guy, the concept guy. And he's more of the, you know, make it actually work kind of thing. And so me, you know, we're both engineers, but we call ourselves street engineers, right? We've never been to college for this stuff, but we've just learned it along the way. We have a very pragmatic approach to things. It allows us to move really quickly on stuff. And I think if being the guy who's sort of, you know, I'm the owner of the business, and I'm seeing where we're trying to go, and I'm usually the guy initially designing the products, it allows me to react quicker than most people could, right? Like if we had outsourced this design, right, and had some sort of intermediary third party doing the engineering of this stuff, I think we would have died automatically. So it's kind of like I equate it to, you know, like early Facebook days with Zuckerberg, you know, like he was the programmer and the visionary of what the thing was. And when you combine those two things, it really allows you to react so much faster than you otherwise could. And it costs a lot less to do as well. So that's sort of unique to my situation. And that's essentially why, you know, I think designing your career path around your strongest ability gives you the least risk in the situation, right? Like, you know, if you're a sales guy, you know, if you love that thing, you know, kind of build whatever business you're trying to build, or job or career, whatever you're trying to build around that strength. And that's what I've done here. It's like I said, you know, at the end of my 10-year journey at Small HD, I said, you know what, like I've done the business thing, I've done the executive thing, I've done the product thing. I think I'm just really good at product. I think I'm really good at actually designing product, being in the CAD and clicking the buttons and printing the things and prototyping stuff. Like, I think that's where my superpower lies. And so I need to put myself in an industry and build a business around me that supports that strength. And that's sort of, gives me an edge, I think,
That's beautiful, Dale. And this stuff relates to every single person out there. Right now, more people are moving jobs than they ever have, right?
Mhm.
People are hopping everywhere. Sales is one of the biggest industries for that. So
Yep.
know what your strengths are in sales and find a career, a sales job that builds around that, because every salesperson is their own business anyways. We talked about that. Every
Mhm.
salesperson's goal is not forever just to be stomping the streets. Their goal
Yeah.
is to establish themselves a certain level to build a business that people start coming to them. And
Yeah.
knowing where your strengths are and leaning into that, not
Mhm.
only takes beautiful awareness, but it also takes some failure, y'all. It
Yeah.
took Dale to make some mistakes, maybe some hiring mistakes, or maybe this mistake, and go, hey, that I didn't like that, having to deal with that as much as that. I got a lot more, this is where I'm comfortable, and then took moves and decisions to move forward. And also being agile. The technology is changing so fast, people are changing so fast, sales is changing so fast, retail marketing is changing so fast. Don't go look at what everybody else is doing, because they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Stop using those old templates, reach out, be original, and focus on who you want and identify a relationship. I think, Dale, that was one of the other things that you said about John, is that he reached out. He built a relationship with you before you brought him in for an interview or for a job.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I think that's just, it's so powerful, man. Like, if you don't, I ask people come to me a lot with advice questions, right? Like, what should I do? Should I go to college? All this kind of stuff, and my advice is always, what do you think about when you're driving or when you're in the shower? Like, where's your mind go when it's idle? And if not all, it doesn't always work, but if it does, if there is a thing that you can kind of build your life around or your career around, that matches up with that, you'll likely be successful, because today's world, the internet and technology has leveled the playing field so much that any given vector you head down is going to be rife with competition, because it's so easy to get ideas out there now. So the only way to succeed these days is to be excellent at that thing. But the flip side is now, or I guess the upside to that now, is that because of the internet, because you can reach any group of people at any time, any kind of with anything, you can kind of tiny niches that used to be unscalable or uneconomical are now economical. And so even if you're good at building birdhouses, a very specific type of birdhouse, there's going to be a market for that, and that was just a random idea or a random thought, but like, that's sort of the beauty of it. And so you don't have to generalize anymore. You can be incredibly specific about what it is you're good at and build something around that that's successful. Just make sure you're great at it,
and enjoy doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the only way you're going to be great at it is if you enjoy doing it. And that's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And the other things that you said earlier too, is that the idea that you came up with these, even as a kid, you were disrupting. The way the ideas come together now is technology moves so fast in each industry, that they're not sharing information on a daily basis. So try something, y'all, practice something. This is, I think, where invention comes from, is not thinking that there's only one way to do things. Ask yourself questions. I'm sure, Dale, I would imagine asking yourself questions, is there a better way to do this, is something that's put you down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. That's the problem with me, is I'm very easily distracted, very easily bored. That's something I have to kind of be careful with.
Awareness. We have a great quote that says, what you're aware of, or what you're unaware of changes you. What you're aware of, you can change.
Right.
And your awareness is really strong, dude. Having gone and accomplished what you've accomplished, and being self-aware of your limits and strengths is really strong. You definitely inspire and come across as someone that I would definitely love to work for, man. So you're a charismatic leader, and I think that's something, especially now with the generations that we're in right now, more needed and valued than ever. People will go work for somebody, and if they don't align with that leader, that mission, you hope they leave right away. If not, just to sit stagnant and collect a paycheck. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the worst.
Well, my man, listen, I'm not going to keep you much longer, because I know shiny, squirrels, shiny things going around everywhere, man. But dude, I really appreciate you coming on the call today, Dale. Like, I think I think our audience will take more from you than you ever imagined. This is a very valuable interview. So thank you so much. Y'all check him out. His link's going to be in the chat down there. Check out OHSnap. And then what's the new wallet I just saw pop up?
Yeah, the MagSnap wallet. We just finished up a Kickstarter around there. And you can actually go on Indiegogo now and find it as well if you want to pre-order, but it'll move to our website in a month or two. OHSnap.com is where you can find us though.
Awesome. And he's not just a product, y'all. It's a product marketplace. That's what I love about the opportunities are endless. John and I were talking about one for the strap on the hiking backpack. We were hiking through the trail. There's all kinds of ideas.
Yep.
Man, Dale, you're awesome. I really appreciate the time, man. Have a great day. And y'all, don't forget, put the stars down low, like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those fun things. We'll see you on the next podcast. That's Leads to Growth with the NASP, y'all. Cheers.